The garage was colder than I expected that night. My son David's old sleeping bag barely cushioned the concrete floor, but I didn't complain. After 52 years in that house, I found myself relegated to sleeping beside garden tools and cardboard boxes. Ironic, considering I'd paid off the mortgage 20 years ago. Christine, my daughter-in-law, had decided the guest room would better serve as her home office. What neither she nor my son knew was that my late husband Edward had left specific instructions in his will, instructions that would arrive precisely on our anniversary. I'm Eleanor Collins, 76 years old with arthritic hands that still manage to tend my beloved garden. Edward and I bought our Victorian-style home when we were newlyweds. He was a promising attorney, and I taught third grade at the local elementary school. We saved every penny for that down payment, eating countless dinners of beans and rice, skipping vacations, wearing secondhand clothes. The house grew along with our family. First came David, then 5 years later, our daughter Rebecca. The kitchen saw birthday parties, holiday gatherings, homework struggles, and countless family meals. Every door frame held pencil marks tracking our children's heights. Every squeaky floorboard told a story. When Edward passed away 3 years ago after a brief battle with cancer, the silence in our home became unbearable. Rebecca lives overseas with her husband and twins, visiting only during summer breaks. David, always my sensitive child, worried about me living alone. "Mom, you shouldn't be by yourself in this big house," he'd say during his weekly visits. "What if you fall?" His concern was genuine, but I managed fine. I had my routines, my garden club friends, my volunteer work at the library. Still, when David announced his engagement to Christine, I was thrilled. She was confident, stylish, and 20 years his junior, a corporate lawyer with perfect posture and a precise way of speaking. "We're thinking of moving to the suburbs," David mentioned one Sunday dinner. "Housing prices are crazy, and we want to start a family." I heard myself offering before I'd fully thought it through. "Why not move in here? There's plenty of space, and I could use the company." They accepted, and initially, everything seemed perfect. David beamed watching his wife settle into his childhood home. I tried to make myself useful without interfering, but 6 months in, I began to notice the subtle shift. The changes happened gradually. Christine suggested rearranging the living room furniture, then repainting the walls from warm yellow to stark white. My family photos migrated from the main hallway to the spare bedroom. The vegetable garden I'd maintained for decades was replaced with low-maintenance ornamental grasses. More modern, Christine explained. I tried to adapt. This was their home now, too, after all, but the boundaries kept shifting beneath my feet. "Eleanor," Christine said. One evening, her voice professionally pleasant, "David and I were thinking it might be nice to establish some household routines. Perhaps you could let us know when you'll be using the kitchen. I often work from home and find cooking noises distracting during client calls." David was working longer hours, leaving Christine and me to navigate our increasingly uncomfortable dynamic. When I mentioned these small changes to my friend Martha over coffee, she frowned. "You're not their tenant, Ellie. It's still your house." But was it? The deed remained in my name, yet I felt increasingly like a guest. I stopped playing my beloved piano after Christine mentioned the noise. I watched my cooking shows with headphones. I scheduled my showers to avoid inconveniencing anyone. One Sunday, I overheard them talking in the garden. "Your mother's stuff is everywhere," Christine sighed. "We can't really make this place ours until we address that." "What do you want me to do?" David sounded tired. "Tell her to get rid of everything?" "Not everything. But that china cabinet takes up the entire dining room, and those ancient armchairs, no one sits in them. We need space for our lives, David." The following week, the guest room where I'd stored some of Edward's things and my craft supplies was emptied. Christine had hired people to move everything to the garage while I was at my weekly bridge game. "We need a proper home office now that I'm taking more remote clients," she explained, showing me the sleek desk and ergonomic chair that had replaced my sewing table. "Where should I put my things?" I asked quietly. Christine smiled brightly. We've organized it all in the garage. Much better than having it scattered around, don't you think? That night, David approached me cautiously. Mom, Christine and I were talking. The commute to my new project is brutal. Would you mind if we took the main bedroom? It's closer to the attached bath, and the current arrangement isn't really working with our schedules. 2 months later, a summer heat wave hit our town. My converted bedroom, once Edward's home office, had no air conditioning. The portable fan merely circulated the hot air as I lay awake, listening to the distant hum of the central air conditioning, cooling the rest of my home. That morning, Christine had left a note on the refrigerator. Having colleagues over for dinner tonight. Would you mind staying in your room or perhaps visiting a friend? Thanks for understanding. It wasn't the first such note. My presence had become inconvenient, my existence a footnote in what used to be my story. I spent the day at the library, returning after 8 to find wine glasses in the sink and leftover pasta in containers. None saved for me. The house was quiet as I made myself a sandwich. When I opened the fridge again for milk, I found a bottle of my lactose-free variety empty, returned to the shelf. I washed up and headed toward my room when I noticed water pooling at the bottom of the stairs. Following the trail led me to my bathroom, where water overflowed from the toilet onto the tile floor and into the hallway. I knocked on the main bedroom door. No answer. I knocked again. Harder. David opened the door, hair rumpled from sleep. Mom, what time is it? The toilet in my bathroom is overflowing. There's water everywhere. Christine appeared behind him in a silk robe. Can it wait until morning? We have an early meeting. There's water damage happening right now, I explained. Just put towels down, she suggested, already closing the door. We'll call someone tomorrow. I spent 2 hours mopping up water and placing buckets under the still dripping pipes. The plumber couldn't come until Thursday, 3 days away. That night, unable to use my bathroom or sleep in my water-damaged room, I made a bed in the garage. The next evening, David found me there, surrounded by boxes of my displaced possessions and Edward's old camping gear. Mom, what are you doing out here? My room has water damage, I reminded him. I needed somewhere to sleep. His face crumpled. Why didn't you tell us? You could have used the office sofa. I didn't want to inconvenience anyone, I said, the words tasting bitter. What I didn't tell him was that earlier that day, I'd called Edward's former law partner. It was time. 3 days later, on what would have been my and Edward's 54th anniversary, a courier arrived at the front door. Christine signed for the envelope while I pruned roses in the garden, pretending not to watch. Eleanor, she called through the open window, there's some legal document here. Something about Edward's will? I set down my gardening shears and wiped my hands on my apron. I'll be right in. The kitchen felt tense as Christine held the sealed envelope. David stood beside her, confusion etched on his face. I thought Dad's will was settled years ago, he said. The main will, yes. I took the envelope, my arthritis making the simple task difficult. But Edward left instructions for certain matters to be revealed on our anniversary this year. I broke the seal and removed several pages of legal documents, along with a handwritten letter in Edward's familiar script. I handed the legal papers to David while keeping the letter for myself. What is this? Christine took the papers from David, scanning them quickly. Her posture stiffened. A trust? The house is in a trust? I nodded, unfolding Edward's letter. Edward established a living trust before he passed. The house and property were transferred into it. But you told us the house was yours. Christine's voice rose slightly. It was. It is. But with conditions. I looked at my son, whose expression wavered between confusion and dawning realization. The trust stipulates that I maintain lifetime residency rights. The house can never be sold while I'm alive, regardless of who manages the property. David sat heavily at the kitchen table. So even if you transferred ownership to us, I couldn't transfer full ownership even if I wanted to, I explained. And after my passing, the property doesn't automatically go to my children. The trustee must ensure certain conditions are met first. Christine's face had gone pale. What conditions? I read from Edward's letter. The beneficiaries must demonstrate they have honored the spirit in which this home was built as a haven of respect and kindness for all who dwell within its walls. This isn't legal, Christine started, but stopped when David placed his hand over hers. Actually, he said quietly, Dad was one of the best estate lawyers in the state. If he set this up, it's ironclad. I refolded the letter carefully. There's more. Edward's law partner has been designated as the trustee. He's been receiving regular updates about the household situation. Updates. Christine looked around as if searching for hidden cameras. From me, I said simply. Monthly letters, as Edward requested. The silence stretched between us, filled with 3 years of unspoken grievances and the sudden rearrangement of perceived power. That night, for the first time in months, I slept in the main bedroom, my bedroom. David helped move my things back upstairs, while Christine remained locked in the home office, making phone calls I pretended not to hear. A week later, they found an apartment across town. David looked both ashamed and relieved as they packed their belongings. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said, helping me dust the now empty bookshelves. "I didn't see what was happening." "We were all adapting," I offered, not quite ready to absolve but unwilling to deepen the wound. Grief and change make us do strange things. 6 months passed. The house settled back into familiar rhythms. I moved the piano back to the living room. Rebecca visited with the twins, filling the rooms with laughter again. David came for Sunday dinners, alone at first, then eventually with Christine, whose smile remained tight but whose tone had softened from necessity. Last week, David helped me plant a new vegetable garden. As we worked the soil, he asked, "Was there really a trust all along? Or did you create it after everything?" I patted his hand, dirt transferring from my gloves to his. "Your father was a very wise man. He understood people in ways I never could. He knew what might happen after he was gone." "And the regular updates to his partner?" I smiled. "Some things should remain a mystery, don't you think? The garden will grow again, just as our family will. Some lessons come through loss, others through legal documents arriving at exactly the right moment. Either way, home remains where respect blooms alongside the vegetables."